track, which to me is a meat grinder. And so that Anna is still alive means that you guys have been treating her at least fairly nicely. So I would like to thank you very much for that. And I'm just excited to be here tonight and see how Anna's teaching. This is like an official observation, so you will want to be on your best behavior for Anna's sake. But yeah, and also, if you ever had time to drop by the Boise campus, I'd be happy to meet with you and show you around what we have over there. It's not super fancy, but we do have a sock that is interesting. And then, if you ever need to drop me a line or something, it's davidkerr1@cwi.edu. I'd be happy to help you with whatever. Are you guys going to come to graduation, or will you do graduation remote as well?
I mean, I figure we've done so much remote for this far, or so far, we might as well do remote graduation.
As you can tell, Steve's one of my jokers.
Very good, very good. Well, I actually did a remote graduation. I have 2 master's degrees and a PhD, and 1 master's was remote and 1 PhD was remote. So, it's it's a kind of personal preference thing. Jennifer, would you be in person or remote?
And Jennifer goes by Gwen. It's just her.
Yeah.
Name.
Oh, okay.
Or
Sorry,
their
I'm
username.
just looking at the
You're fine.
word down.
Either or.
Okay. Undecided so far.
Yeah.
Does Nicholas go by Nick or Nicholas or something else?
Whatever rolls off the tongue best, but
Oh.
Nick most of the time.
Very nice. Would you attend in person or remote?
I'm gonna
Or
go
not
with
at all?
in person, probably for my
Nice.
parents' sake, so that way they can see all the fun.
Actually, that is what graduation is, huh? It's kind of for the relatives more than
Mhm.
yourself.
Yep.
Good for you. Jeff, what would you be doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing good.
Good. If you were gonna do graduation, would you be in person or remote?
In person for sure.
Yeah, okay. Then I at least get to meet you if you're in person. And Stephen, we're not entertained, but we are curious. He went to the bathroom.
No,
Oh, no, he's back.
I'm back. I mean, if everyone else is doing it, I guess I can make some connections and do it in person.
Okay. Where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Boise. It's like,
Okay.
I think I'm like 5-10 minutes from campus, so I could walk there.
Very awesome. That's
It's
cool.
a nice
And then,
celebration. So
yeah, it's usually pretty fun. Eli, do you go by Eli?
we can't hear you, Eli.
Even though you unmuted, so that's interesting.
Oh, yep, we got you now.
Yeah. Do we?
Oh, I thought we did.
Eli, you'll have to type it in chat.
Yeah, just go ahead and type it in chat. We can't.
Joshua Nelson.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you go by Josh, Joshua, or
I go by Josh.
Okay.
It'll all depend on what's going on because I kind of skipped the first year. I think I've actually met with you in person before.
Yeah,
I remember you. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice to see you
because
again, although it looks like a black screen.
it's 'cause I don't have my video on. Sorry, I'm in the library right now.
That is fine.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, there you are.
All right. So it'll all just depend on credits and whatnot, but probably in person.
Okay. I think you can be, 4 credits from graduation or something like that, and you can still walk. So
All right, we'll see.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Mike Schaefer the third. That's a cool thing. Do you go by Mike? Oh, we got
we're having
two
a problem with
microphones.
yours too, Mike.
Now that is kind of ironic that Mike would have a
Mike's
problem.
Mike is having problems.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, he's
All
on.
right.
That's why.
And then
Oh,
how do
that's
you
right. Yeah,
see-
you were starting a new Linux installation. I remember that.
Oh, that'll do it.
Oh, he wants to
time.
do it. Yeah, he wants to do in person, it looks like.
Okay. Very nice. And then is it German or German or
German.
German?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I can, yeah.
Sorry, I was able to hop in. Are we just doing introductions?
Yeah, he was
No,
asking about
yeah.
people doing whether or not you would do an in-person graduation.
Would you be like in person? Would you zoom in, or would you do what I did for my first one and not even go?
I would probably just do offline. I'm not a big social person, so I mean, that's why I also love the online course as well. Just, I don't know. I'd rather just not do big celebrations, you know. I'd rather just
Yeah.
do offline.
Okay, yeah. And then I think Zach is the last one.
Zach's my tutor. He's already graduated.
Zach, if you were going to graduate again, would you be in person or?
Oh,
Uh-oh.
I
He
have
has a
problems
mic
with your
problem
mic.
too? Is that a little suspicious that 3 people have no
No,
mic?
Zach is a Linux person too, and he was having some problems with Linux last night.
Okay. Well,
Hello?
so I'm
Oh,
actually.
we got you. I heard you,
sorry.
Zach.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'd probably do it online.
Online. Sure. I know one of my daughters would do in person and the other one would be like totally online or not even at all type of thing. So
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's nice to meet all of you. I'm actually here just to observe. So from here on out, I'll probably be super quiet, but I'm going to turn it back over to Anna. Anna, thanks very much for letting me introduce myself.
Okay, thanks, David. All right, guys. So tonight we are going to be working on, let's see. Sorry, I got a little off track there. Malware threats. So I thought we would start with a little in the news section here. So let me share my screen with y'all. And I don't know if you guys saw this because we had previously been talking about how badly Ukraine had been hit with everything. So since we're talking about malware, it looks like they've got a new malware that has come after the Ukrainian computers. It's called Dirty Mo. It's gone after about 2,000 plus Ukrainian computers, and it looks like a DDoS and cryptojacking. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this one. It's actually a new one to me.
Well, you know it's not Russian.
No, it's not. I don't think. It looks like they are attempting to create a large botnet, is what it looks like to me. There is also, it can be delivered by another one, means called Purple Fox, or they can use a bogus MSI installer for different packages. And it looks like if you use Purple Fox, you can do what's called the rootkit, which we talked about, and then that allows them to hide that malware. So they talk about the initial access vector, and that is used in the campaign to target Ukraine. They have no idea exactly where it came from. CERT UA is the one that's been doing kind of an up to date look at things, trying to figure out the different traffic and stuff. So let me copy this link here if you guys want to see a little more about it. There you go. So there's that. And then tonight, you can press that so I can see you guys a little better. We are going to be going over malware threats. Now, some of these I will go through and kind of just point to, and because we've gone over them so much, and these slides can be super dense, as we learned last night. So here are the learning objectives for this particular section. Explain malware and malware propagation techniques. Summarize advanced persistent threat, APT. Do you remember those? Those are the ones that hang on to the computer for as long as possible. Explain Trojans, types, and how they infect systems. Explain viruses, worms, their types, and how they infect files. Explain fileless malware concepts. Demonstrate malware analysis process. Explain malware countermeasures. And lastly, demonstrate the use of anti-malware software. Okay, so introduction here. Here are the types of examples of malware. So malware is considered a malicious software that damages or disables the computer systems and gives limited or full control of the system to the malware creator for the purpose of theft or fraud. So Trojans, backdoors, rootkits, ransomware, adware, viruses, worms, spyware, botnets, as we were talking about in the article, and cryptors. Here are some different ways for them to enter the system. You can use instant messenger applications, portable hardware, media, or removable devices. Do you remember us talking about the one where they used the USB drive in Stuxnet in Iran? That would be that one. Browsers and email software bugs, insecure patch management, rogue or decoy applications, untrusted sites and freeware web application software, downloading files from the internet, email attachments, network propagation, file sharing services. So remember how we talked about there are a lot of times when those are just not secured. Well, that's how they get them in. Installation by other malware, and of course, Bluetooth and wireless networks. Common techniques attackers use for distribution. So we have the black hat search engine optimization. So ranking malware pages highly in the search engine. So what they do is they get in there and mess with the SEO and boost that up there so that they have those infected web pages higher up so that they can get more clicks. Social engineered clickjacking, tricking users into clicking on innocent looking web pages. Spear phishing sites, those are the ones that mimic legitimate institutions in an attempt to steal login credentials. Malvertising, I know that everyone's run into this one. Embedded malware and ad networks that display across hundreds of legitimate high traffic sites. Compromised legitimate websites. Hosting embedded malware that spreads to unsuspecting visitors. Drive-by downloads, exploiting flaws in browser software to install malware just by visiting a web page. Spam emails, we all love those. Attaching the malware to emails to trick the victims to clicking the attachment. And RTF injection, injecting malicious macros into an RTF file and tricking users to open malicious documents. Okay, so here are the basic components of malware. We have a cryptor, downloader, dropper, exploit, injector, obfuscator, packer, payload, and malicious code. So a cryptor is a piece of software that protects the malware from undergoing reverse engineer or analysis. So it makes it hard for security mechanisms to find it. A downloader, this is a type of Trojan that downloads other malware from the internet to the PC. Usually the attackers install the downloader when they first gain access to the system. A dropper is a type of Trojan that covertly installs other malware files onto the system. That's why it's called a dropper. It drops into the system. Exploit is malicious code that breaches the system security via software vulnerabilities to gain access. An injector is a program that injects its code into other vulnerable running processes and changes how they execute to hide or prevent removal. Obfuscator. So steganography, what we talked about, is technically obfuscation, a program that conceals its code and intended purpose via various techniques and thus makes it hard for security mechanisms to detect or remove it. A packer, this is a program that allows all files to bundle together into a single executable file via compression to bypass security software detection. So it's kind of like when you zip files together. Kind of, not exactly the same, but it's, I figured if you guys understood file compression, that's kind of the same thing they use. A payload is a piece of software that allows control over a computer system after it has been exploited. So if you think about it, when they talk about payloads with explosives, that's kind of where this came from. You drop the payload and it explodes on the system. Malicious code, a command that defines malware's basic functionality, such as stealing data and creating backdoors. Potentially, they call them PUAs, and you'll see this a lot if you have like malware bytes or anything else. It'll give you tons of those. They're called grayware or junkware. They're potentially harmful and may pose severe risks to security, privacy of data on the system. They're usually annoying, and can have stuff in there, but it's just the sheer amount of overwhelming number of them. They're usually installed when downloading freeware or third-party installers. You know, those misleading license agreements that you don't notice the little tiny check boxes down on the bottom.
I
That's
was
that
gonna
type of thing.
say, for the potentially or the PAE or PUAs, I could swear I read an article somewhere that I can't for the life of me, but it was talking about how there was basically they all came from separate sources, but all those sources came from the same one. And the grayware, like if you had, there was like X amount, and they would basically work together. And I can't remember, and that's when it became harmful for like that set of them.
It's that I haven't read that article, but sometimes you can do that where they have a whole bunch of disparate things that look like grayware and then they can come together. So yeah, that is a very advanced technique, but I have seen some instances of that. That's why when I personally run scans, because there are some people that run them and they see the PUAs and they're like, oh, whatever. I delete them. I don't leave them on the system. Covert monitor and alter. That's another thing that you really is what they are after on a lot of these. They do a lot of monitoring and altering of the data. A lot of times they'll monitor or store information as well. So the different types, the big types of PUAs, you have your adware, that's your big one. Torrents, marketing, crypto mining, and dialers. There's also potentially like torrents. Microsoft and other anti-malware products have classified uTorrent and popular BitTorrent clients as malware or potentially unwanted applications. However, they can be used for legitimate uses. It just depends on what you're using them for. Okay, adware. I hate adware. This is a software program that supports advertisements and generates those nice ad pop-ups that can go everywhere. They track cookies and user browsing patterns for marketing purposes, and they collect user data. Usually they collect them and then pass them out as well. That's where they consume their bandwidth, and they exhaust CPU resources and memory. So here are some indications of adware: system lag, inundation and advertisements, incessant system crashes, disparity in default browser home pages, because a lot of times they'll put them in there as a plugin that reroutes either your search engine or your home page. Presence of new toolbar or browser add-ons, and again, slow internet. Okay, APTs, we've gone over this quite a bit, so I'm going to kind of walk through this one a little more quickly. So APTs are advanced persistent threats, as we've talked about. They are network attacks. They gain unauthorized access and go undetected for a long period of time. Their whole point is for them to gain as much sensitive data as possible. The types of information that they go after: classified documents, user credentials, personal information, network information, transactions, credit cards, organization, business information, control system access information. Usually when you see things, when they talk about terrorists that gain access, they usually have an APT in there before they do the attack in order to get things like this too. Here's some characteristics. So the objectives, again, sensitive information, that's what they want. Or they are doing something for political or strategic goals. They have the timeliness, the time taken by the attacker from assessing the target system for vulnerabilities to gain and maintain the access. They have a very specific timeline. The amount of knowledge, tools, and techniques required to perform the attack are a lot larger than somebody like a script kiddie. Risk tolerance, level up to which The attack remains undetected in the target's network. Skills and methods, methods and tools used by the attacker to perform certain attack. The actions APT consists of a certain number of technical actions that cause them to differ from other cyber attacks. They're quite advanced. And then attack origination points, numerous attempts to gain entry into the target's network. So they don't just try once, they'll try multiple times in multiple different areas, and then they'll try to stay as hidden for as long as possible to get as much information out as possible. So a number of host systems are involved. The knowledge source, they're talking about gathering information through online sources. It's multi-phased. It includes reconnaissance, gaining access, discovery, capture, and the big one is that data exfiltration. They really want that data. They're tailored to the vulnerabilities of whoever they're attacking. That, like I said, multiple points of entry. They evade signature-based detection because they're usually backed by someone who has a lot of knowledge and a lot of expensive tools, so they can easily bypass generic systems. Then there are specific indicators or warning signs, inexplicable user account activities, presence of backdoors, unusual file transfer and file uploads. That's a big one. Unusual database activities. Sometimes you'll even see a huge spike in like your bandwidth and things like that. Okay, this one's a nice little one. I would suggest that you keep this slide for yourself because it's a nice reminder. So, and it's like everything else here, it's cyclic. So we have preparation, you define the target, research the target, organize team, build or attain tools, test for detection, then the initial intrusion, deploy your malware and establish an outbound connection. Then you expand. So you expand your access and obtain credentials. Then you persist, maintain your access for as long as possible. Search and exfiltration. You exfiltrate that data, you get it out of there. Then you clean up, you cover your tracks and remain undetected. A successful attack they don't know about. That's the whole point. Okay, before I go on to that, does anyone remember them talking about, we talked a little bit about Stuxnet. Technically so do you remember Stuxnet? What they did with Stuxnet and how they got into that technically would have been part of an APT because while they weren't after data, they were state funded and things like that. It took a very long time for someone to even notice that it was, like a virus or a worm that did that.
Stuxnet was the one that crashed the nuclear reactors, right?
Yes,
Or
it
the
is.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep, that is the one. It's one of the most famous because it was a joint operation between the United States and Israel, and it was the way they did it was it was quite artful. All right, Trojans. So what is a Trojan? Sorry, I just saw. Yes, and that is also a good point, David. There is a good possibility that we had a lot of people here, like at INL, that were working on Stuxnet because we have INL and all that stuff out here as well. So Trojans, it is a program in which the malicious or harmful code is contained inside a harmless program or data, which can gain control and cause damage. Trojans get activated when a user performs a certain predefined action. Indications of Trojan attack include abnormal system and network activities, like disabling of antivirus or redirection to unknown pages. They create a covert communication channel between the victim computer and the attacker for transferring sensitive data. So how do hackers use those? They delete or replace critical operating system files, generate fake traffic to create DOS attacks, record screenshots, audio, and video of the victim's PC, use victim's PC for spamming and blasting email messages, download spyware, adware, and malicious files, disable firewalls and antivirus, create backdoors to gain remote access, infect victim PC as a proxy server for relaying attacks, use the victim PC as a botnet to perform DDoS attacks. I've seen that one a lot. Steal personal information such as passwords, security codes, and credit card information. Okay, so these are different types of Trojans. There are different categories and they're based upon their functioning and their targets. So we have remote access Trojans, backdoor Trojans, botnet Trojans, rootkit Trojans, e-banking Trojans, point of sale Trojans. Point of sale, they're talking about like those computers for cash registers and things like that. Defacement Trojans, service protocol Trojans, mobile Trojans, Internet of Thing Trojans. So those are like our smart house type things. Security software disabler Trojans, destructive Trojans, DDoS attack Trojans, and command shell Trojans.
So at least to my thinking, like the reason you don't use the power or the public plugins for like cell phone chargers and stuff at the airport, would those be a Trojan? Because they do, if they're, I should say, if they're corrupted or if they're bad, for lack of a better word, they would do all the stuff a Trojan would do. They would.
Well, they're Trojans, usually if they're going to do something like where you plug in, they're going to do a keylogger because they have, do you guys remember me showing the OMG cables that look like regular types of cables, but they're actually keyloggers? They do that for the plugins and stuff because the amount of programming is a lot easier to do. However, it is possible to make devices that you can plug in that will download information into your phone. It depends on if you're plugging into a USB port, because a lot of times they have those things now, those wall plates and things that actually just plug in straight to a USB port. Well, if you engineer it correctly, you could put in something small that hides in there, just like they make those fake fronts for the card readers at gas stations that steal credit card numbers. If you just had one that all it did when you plug it in was to download a Trojan, then yeah, it is completely possible to do something like that. Okay, infection. So you create your Trojan, you employ a dropper or downloader for installation of the code, a wrapper to bind the Trojan, and that's where you wrap it in a legitimate file. You employ your crypter to encrypt it, propagate the Trojan by various methods, deploy the Trojan to the victim's machine by executing the dropper or downloader on the target machine, and then you execute the damage routine. You can see down here this nice little graphic here that walks you through the different methods. And this is some examples. You can use Dark Horse Trojan Virus Maker. You can use Trojan Horse construction kits. There are all sorts of different ones online, but the problem is you need to be, and this is kind of ironic, you need to be careful with the tools you're using to create the Trojan, because a lot of times you'll go out and find these tools and those tools themselves are actually infected. So Metasploit has some things in there that you can create wrappers and things like that if you want to test how this is done for the white hat hacker section. Okay, dropper and downloader. So the dropper is used to camouflage the malware payloads, consists of one or more types of malware, and is undetectable by the antivirus. And the whole point is to do it stealthily. Emotet dropper, Drydex dropper, Gym dropper, and I'm probably going to murder that, ANSA, I think is how that's pronounced, are some of the famous ones. Downloaders, These are programs that can be downloaded and install harmful programs. A downloader does not carry the malware. Usually when you do these, there are separate programs for each step. So like this one, you would have to create your Trojan, and the downloader just does that. It just helps you download it and pass through an anti-malware scanner. Godzilla downloader, Trojan downloader, things like this are some options for that. Wrappers, remember how we were talking about putting a legitimate file around it? You bind the Trojan to an executable with a genuine exe application, like games or Office applications. That's why you never download stuff that you don't know what it is. And then when they run whatever it is, it executes that Trojan in the background, and then the wrapping application in the foreground. And they might see whatever it is. Like you have, I don't know if you guys ever saw this one a long time ago. There was one that was like, here, download this really cool fireworks show. And you download the fireworks show, and as you're seeing these cool little fireworks go across your screen, it is infecting your system with a worm. So it's kind of like that.
What were those old?
What?
What were those old?
I can barely hear you.
What were those old sites? I can't remember what they were, but they were browser games, and it was just like a massive collection of browser games and viruses.
I don't know. Flash games? Is that what you're talking
There
about?
you go.
Yeah,
Flash
good call,
games.
Mike. Flash games. Yes, and basically they were a nice massive collection of viruses. There were some legitimate games in there, but Flash in and of itself is very easy to infect. So there's IE Express Wizard that they're using here. And this one wraps and guides the user into creating a self-extracting package. And then you can see on the right, you have a couple of different ones that you can use as well. Cryptor. So this is used by a hacker to hide viruses, keyloggers, and tools in any kind of file so that they do not get detected. There's BitCryptor, and then there's some other cryptors here that you can use. Propagating and deploying Trojan. So I think all of us have seen the fake click this link. And that is one of the major ways to do that. You click the link, and then as you do that, it goes out onto the. Here are some extra ones doing propagation through covert channels. So you deploy and hide malicious Trojans in an undetectable protocol. The covert channels operate on a tunneling method and are mostly employed by attackers to evade firewalls that are deployed on the target network. They create covert channels using tools like Ghost Tunnel, Electric Fish, and other things like that. And you can see here, you have your firewall, and it goes whoop to the covert channel and goes around to the target server. And then proxy servers. These we've talked about a couple of times. You can compromise several computers using a Trojan proxy and start using them as hidden proxy servers. They have full control over the proxy victim system, and then they can launch from that and attack other systems as well. The attackers then use this anonymously to propagate and deploy the Trojan on target computer. And then if the authorities detect illegal activity, those footprints lead back to that innocent person on that proxy machine. Okay, as we were talking about, Stuxnet, deploying through USB flash drives. This is why you don't pick up a flash drive and put it into the system unless you know what it is. So they put it on your flash drive, you put it in, there it goes. We've talked about that a couple of times. Okay, so techniques for evading. So you can break the Trojan file into multiple pieces and zip them into a single file. Always write your own Trojan and embed it to the application. Change the Trojan syntax. You can change the EX to a VB. So you can change your things like that. So anytime you see those like this, there's a lot of times, that's actually one of the easiest ways that you can detect it, is if you see multiple extensions, don't open the file. Change the content of the Trojan using hex editors. And then you can also change the checksum when you're encrypting the file. Never use Trojans downloaded from the web. Exploit kits. So an exploit kit or crimeware toolkit, basically this is a platform to deliver exploits and payloads like Trojans, spyware, backdoors, etc. to the target system. These exploit kits come with pre-written exploit codes and therefore can be easily used by the attacker. So this is the stuff your script kiddies like to get a hold of. So they go out and the victim uses the website, they then attacked with these exploit kits, and they get redirected through different servers, and boom, they've got this stuff on their system. So here are some examples. Botanago is an exploit kit written by GoScript in the GoScripting language. So there's 30 variants of exploits. So it's capable of attacking millions of IoT and routing devices. This is why I think IoT is its own special section. This one, attackers initiate the exploitation process by dropping a backdoor into the victim's device through that port. And then here is a nice list of different exploit kits. Okay. You guys all with me? You've been pretty good about posting questions and comments, so hopefully you guys are still doing okay. Good job. Okay. All right. Viruses and worms. There are a ton of these, and we've talked about this in different classes as well. So introduction to viruses. Viruses are a self-replicating program that produce their own copy by attaching itself to another program, computer boot sector, or a document. They're generally transmuted through file downloads, infected disk flash drives, and as email attachments. Indications of a virus include constant antivirus alerts, suspicious hard drive activity, and lack of storage space, and unwanted pop-up windows. So here are some good examples. We have infected of other programs, transform themselves, encrypt themselves, alter data, corrupt files and programs, self-replication. Then what are the purposes of creating these viruses? Hold on one second. I don't know why it's doing this, but there we go. It's allowing someone else to draw on my screen. Okay, now it's fixed. Purpose of creating viruses: inflict damage on competitors, financial benefits, vandalism, playing pranks, research projects, cyber terrorism, distribute political messages, damage networks and computers, gain remote access to a victim's computer. These are the stages of your virus life cycle. So design, developing your virus code using programming languages or construction kits. Replication, the virus replicates itself for a period within the target system. Then it spreads itself. Launch, it gets activated when the user performs certain actions, such as running infected programs. Detection, virus is identified as a threat. Incorporation, antivirus developers assimilate defenses against the virus. Execution of the damage routine. Users install antivirus updates and eliminate your virus threat. Okay, working of viruses. So your infection phase. In the infection phase, the virus replicates itself and attaches to an exe file in the system. So you can see here on the left, before and then after, you can see how it adds a nice little section in there on the after. The attack phase, viruses are programmed with trigger events to activate and corrupt the system. Some viruses infect each time they are run. Others infect only when a certain predefined condition is met, such as a user-specific task, a day or time, or a specific event. So you'll see the before up here, and then file fragmented due to virus attack underneath. You can see how everything's kind of jumbled around. So how do these computers get infected by viruses? When a user accepts files and downloads without properly checking the source, that is a big one. Opening infected email attachments, installing pirated software, not updating and not installing new versions of plugins, not running the latest antivirus applications, clicking malicious online ads, using portable media, connecting to untrusted networks. All right, there is a ton of different types of viruses. And if you guys have any questions about some of these, you can always ask me about this. So there are categories and they are dependent on their function and targets. There's more than this. These are just some examples. There's system or boot sector, file and multipartite virus, macro and cluster, stealth and tunneling, encryption, sparse infector, polymorphic, metamorphic, overriding file or cavity, companion camouflage, shell and file extension, FAT and logic bomb. Those are actually really interesting to study. Web scripting, email and armored, add-on and intrusive, direct action and transient, and then terminate and stay resident. Let's see how we're doing here. Okay. Ransomware, we've talked about this one a couple of times. This is a type of malware that restricts access to a computer system or files or folders and demands online ransom payment to the malware creators to remove restrictions. So there was, I haven't read the press release, but there was a rumor that that's what happened with the hospital here recently when they had some issues that they had a portion of their system on their network that got hit with some sort of ransomware. So this Black Cat is a type of ransomware, and then there are different ransomware families over here. And this is an example of some more ransomware. And basically they, you know how we talked about encryption, they encrypt everything in that nice, really good encryption and then say, hey, this is how much time you have to pay us. Have a question? Yeah, good point. Yeah, Nampa School District. They got hit by, in fact, there's a really cool map. Let me stop this for just a second. Sorry, kitty intervention. There's a really cool map that uses, let's see if I have it linked out here. I thought I did, but I don't. I will share it with you guys, but there's a really cool map where they have all of the like K through 12, and it's called K through 12 something, and it has security incidents, and it has these little dots all over it, and it'll tell you the type of infection and then information about it. It's really cool, and it's amazing to see how many have happened throughout the United States. So how to infect a system? Create a virus. Virus can be created by writing a virus program or using a virus maker tool. And then this, you can see writing a virus program. They're using a batch file on this one. And then they have virus maker tools. This is a whole bunch of examples of different virus makers. Then propagating and deploying, you can do virus hoaxes. There are false alarms claiming reports about non-existing viruses that actually contain a virus attachment. Warning messages that propagate a certain email message should not be viewed, and doing so will damage one's systems. And some of the famous virus hoaxes right here. And then Google critical security alerts. So it looks like, I mean, some of them look very, very legitimate. And then so you get out there and you click on it and it's actually a virus. Fake antivirus. There's a bunch of different fake antivirus programs. And they look very realistic, but they're not. Okay, computer worms. So worms are malicious programs that, and this is the key part, they independently replicate execute and spread across network connections. That's the difference between them and viruses. They consume available computing resources without human interaction. Attackers use worm payloads to install backdoors, infect computers, and then it turns them into things like zombies, and you can create botnets. Then those botnets can be used for things like DDoS attacks. Like I said, how do they differ? Well, the worm replicates on its own and it spreads through your network. Worm makers, here are some here. There's the Internet Worm Maker thing. I always think it's funny when they name them things like that. And then there's Batchworm, and there's a C++ one down there as well. Okay. There are fileless malware. And this is called non-malware that infects legitimate software applications and other protocols in the system to perform various malicious activities. It leverages an existing vulnerabilities to infect the system, resides in the system RAM, and it injects malicious code into running processes like Word, Flash. Actually, Flash and JavaScript are the two I've seen the most, and PDF Reader and PowerShell. So reasons for using fileless malware and cyber attacks: it's very stealthy. It exploits, you can do the living off the land because it exploits default system tools, and it's trustworthy. It uses tools that are frequently used and trusted. Fileless propagation techniques used by attackers: phishing emails, legitimate applications, native application, infection through internal movement, malicious websites, registry manipulations, memory code injection, and script-based injection. So I don't know if we've talked about taxonomy a little bit. By that just means the way that they have this written out here. So this is the taxonomy of a fileless malware threat. This is a good one to take the slide from. Type 1, no file activity. 2, over here, no files written on disk. And then 3, files required to achieve fileless exploit. So how does it work? So point of entry, and this kind of goes in a nice little here and here. Code injection, malicious code. And it kind of goes all over the place. And then you can go through the registry, Windows management, and all this. Then you can see malicious website or a phishing malicious document. Then you get through your script base, and then you get over to your persistence where it stays in these here. And then you get to your whatever objective they want here on the end. So launching fileless malware through document exploits and in-memory exploits, they can trick users into downloading documents or any other files, and then they put those macros in there. And then the macro launches VBA or JavaScript to exploit Windows default tools like PowerShell to continue the infection. In-memory exploits, they inject the malicious payload into RAM that targets legitimate processes without leaving any footprints. And then they exploit different Windows APIs like WMI, PSEC, PowerShell to gain access over the process memory of a legitimate process. And then you can do script-based injection, where you use scripts where binaries and shellcodes are embedded and then obfuscated and compiled and to avoid file creation on disk. And they allow the attackers to communicate and infect applications or operating systems without being traced. You can exploit your system admin tools. So here you go, you run in here and you get your admin tools, and anytime they launch those, then it infects them. Phishing, you have social engineering and phishing, you can come through and do those as well. Persistence for fileless entry techniques. You don't use disk files or spread infections, so it's a little bit easier to maintain your presence. You develop what are called load points to restart infection payloads and maintaining persistence. They save malicious payloads inside the registry that holds data or configurations, application files and settings, which execute itself every time the system restarts. So this is an example here. This one's called Lemon Duck and it's Python based. You could use that for your Python class, David. These are different obfuscation techniques to bypass antivirus. You can insert characters. So you can see they have the different characters that they've inserted between the commands so that the well-known strings are not seen. You can do inserting a parentheses, you can see there, and then caret symbols you can insert in there so that it's hard to see as well. Double quotes, and use custom environment variables, and then use pre-assigned environment variables. Okay, so sorry, I know this one's a little bit long. So we've gone through, we've actually gone through some of these. So do you remember us talking about sheep dipping? This refers to the analysis of suspect files and etc. for malware. You take your sheep dip computer, you install port monitors, file monitors, network monitors, and antivirus software, and connect to a network only under strictly controlled conditions. And then you lock everything down. You can do antivirus sensor systems. These I'm going to run through quickly because we're running out of time, and I'm sure your brain is probably hurting by this point, and also because we've already run through these before. We've done malware analysis. This is where they're talking about reverse engineering. This is preparing a test bed. Remember how we talked about dynamic and static analysis of code? That's the same thing that they do with malware analysis. You can see right here, there are subsections on that as well. Virus detection methods. So you do scanning, integrity checking, interception, code emulation, and heuristic analysis, which we've talked about. There's Electro-Rat, which we haven't talked about. This is a Go program. RIT, it's designed to be compiled with common operating systems, and then it's delivered through a downloadable application for cryptocurrency users to steal their private keys and things like that. So this one, you put fake files, profiles on cryptocurrency forums, and then this is how you exploit it out. And as you can see, it can be quite persistent. Okay, so if you want to know more about the REvil or ransomware, there's a whole section here that explains out REvil as well. And then there's a section on malware analysis as well. Okay. Countermeasures. So Trojan countermeasures. Avoid opening email, attachments received from unknown senders, block all unnecessary ports at the host, avoid accepting programs transferred by instant messaging, harden weak default configuration settings, and disable unused functionality, including protocols and service. Monitor internet internal network traffic for odd ports or encrypted traffic. Avoid downloading and executing applications from untrusted sources. Install patches and security updates for the OS and application. Scan external USBs and DVDs with antivirus software before using them. You can actually set this as default as soon as you plug it in. Restrict permissions with desktop environment to prevent the installation of malicious application, and run host-based antivirus firewall intrusion detection software. Backdoor countermeasures. Most commercial antivirus products can automatically scan and detect backdoor programs before they can cause damage. Make sure you educate your users. Make sure you avoid untrusted software. Use antivirus tools. Track open source projects that enter enterprise from untrusted, and that's a big thing you'll see over another. Untrusted external sources. Make sure you keep track of those, and make sure that network packets have been monitored. So virus and worm countermeasures are basically the same thing. Use your antivirus, make sure you have an update antivirus policy, regular scans, make sure that you pay attention and teach people to pay attention when they're downloading files. Make sure that you explain things about attachments. Don't accept disks or programs without knowing what's in them. Do maintain data backups. Make sure that you have people educated on pop-up blockers and virus threats. Make sure you have a good disk cleanup and registry scanner once a week. And then make sure you have anti-spyware and anti-adware. And then, of course, do not open files with more than one type of extension. Okay, remove all admin tools and restrict access. If they don't need it, don't let them have it. Disable PowerShell and WNI when it's not in use. Disable macros and use only digitally signed trusted macros. Install whitelisting solutions. Train employees. That's a huge thing. Again, train your employees to detect phishing emails. Disable PDF readers so they can't run JavaScript automatically. Also, you should be doing that on your browsers as well. Implement two-factor authentication. Implement multi-layer security, run periodic antivirus scans, install browser protection tools, and disable automatic plugin downloads, regularly update and patch, use NGAV software that employs advanced technology, like AI and ML to prevent new polymorphic malware.
Another big thing on train your employees is
I can't hear you.
Another big thing on train your employees is make sure that you continue the training every 6 to 8 months.
Exactly.
Because anything more than a year and a half, and basically like they did a study on it, and the people's general scores went through the toilet.
Yeah. After a certain amount of time, people forget. They just don't, it flushes out of their brain. Okay, anti-malware. So make sure to use anti-Trojan software. Here are some examples. Antivirus software. Here are some examples of fileless malware detection tools. And these are used to protect against fileless malware protection. A lot of times, one thing I will tell you that they don't mention here, a lot of these, you can do the bootable virus scanners that go on a USB, and that way you can get all the way around anything that's stored in the master boot record for things like rootkits. And if you run it off of the USB, that way you can have an easier time tracking things. Okay, so, yay, we made it through. Okay, so that's it for the lecture portion. The next portion we're going to talk about is what we're going to do for our Kali Linux lab. And if you give me just 1 second here, I'm going to pause the recording. Does anyone need a short break to grab a drink of water, run to the restroom? Did you all die in the background? No, the lab's this lab's I think you'll enjoy. Okay, give me just 1 second here. We'll resume recording. If you remember, the lab is to use Nmap on Kali Linux. You can either use VirtualBox or you can use the VMs to do this. I put it on my VirtualBox at home, just because it's easier to do the screen share with. So let me share this with you guys. Can you guys see that okay? Yes, no, yep, thanks, Glenn. Hopefully I don't have. There we go. I just typed it wrong. Okay. So. Easiest way to do this is to go in, the tool for, sorry, the toolbar is right in the way. And I cannot see my Kali Linux box. There we go. The easiest way to do this is to open that and type nmap. So we have nmap here. Okay. And the nice thing about nmap is as soon as you open that up, you can do Parrot OS if nmap's on Parrot OS. If you've already got that up. I do believe Parrot OS has that on there. So yeah, if you've already got Parrot, then that's fine. When I originally wrote this lab, we had just used Kali, so yeah, as long as you've got it on there, Parrot's got a lot of the same tools. So what I really want you to use is nmap. So whether it's on Kali Linux or Parrot Linux, it's fine. So here are all of your list of commands for nmap right here. So there is, you see the example. There is a very easy one. This is case sensitive. So nmap space dash v, that's a lowercase case v, space dash capital A. And the site is hackthisSite.org. And this site is a website that's out there for people to practice hacking on. And this will run. Might take us a second. As you can see, it's pulling information out here. And there are questions. I'm not going to give you the answers to those questions, but if you look, you can see the information that it's pulling here. You can see right there, it's got the ping scan. It's got a DNS resolution. It's got some open ports. It's doing service scans now. It's doing an NSE script scan. And you can also do if you want to do another site, sorry, what? Someone just asked a question. No. If you want to do another site besides hack this site, the scanme.nmap.org, nmap created as another test site. Hack this site is purposely created with holes and things like that, so you can see the problems. And it takes a second here, so while this is scanning, does anyone have any questions on using nmap? Has anyone played around with nmap? Yeah, do not use nmap against government sites. That is an excellent point, Mike. That is a very good way to get in trouble. Remember me talking about if you're going to use the tools, make sure you use them in places you're allowed to. Those are not places you're allowed to do that. Do not use them on CWI's website. But hack this site and then the nmap site, those are made for you to practice on. Okay. Yeah, you will definitely have someone show up at your door if you mess with those. Okay, so let's scroll up here. As you can see, we ran this. And the one thing I do like is that you can see how much time it elapses while it's doing these. Here are other, you see the IP addresses, other IP addresses that, and MAC addresses and things down there. There are different ones where there's no response. There is the state and the version down here on this one. You can see there's an SSL cert section. There's a subject alternative name for the DNS. You can see all that there. You can see the issuer. And look, there's a public key type. There's a public, how many bits are in the public key? The signature algorithm. There's some MD5 and SHA-1 sections. And then there's more port scanning that they've done here as well. Yeah, you will definitely get some shiny bracelets, as David said, if you do that with the wrong places. So now let's do this on the scanme nmap.org. And if you want to do the same command, no, we got to go back to, you can hit the up arrow and it'll bring you back to your command. And we can just back. What was it? Nmap. scanme.nmap.org. Okay. See how many open ports we've got here? And you guys understand why Nmap is kind of the gold standard for doing scans now? Hi, Katie. Now this one went a lot faster. Can you possibly think of why this one might have gone faster than the other one? Anybody? We could have less traffic, but what I think is actually going on is there are less open ports and less things out there for it to discover. So do you see all of the information that you can pull off of the Cactus site? I mean, they leave open stuff out there for the reason to show you this is what it looks like when it's misconfigured. Whereas this one, they do have some stuff, but it's not as much. So if you did that to a site that's properly configured, you're not going to get as much information out, and it'll probably go through the scan a lot faster. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these commands. And we've talked about Nmap quite a bit. Now, there are different scan techniques. Remember us talking about active and passive? Do you think that the one that I just did, do you think that is an active or a passive scan? You're right. It is an active scan because it goes out and it pulls that information in. So yes, that is an active scan. That is something that if they're looking for it, they're going to notice that you're out there scanning that. So what does if you want to know what these different things do, if you scroll up here, there's some scripts that you can scan. There's different host discoveries. You can pass host names up here. SV, that one probes open ports to determine service and version information. So do you think that would be an active or a passive?
Sorry, I missed that part. What was the last one question?
For the SV scan or command, do you think that would be an active or passive? It probes open ports to determine service and version information. That's another active one.
It's probing. Wouldn't that mean it was, or because it's probing, wouldn't that mean it's automatically active?
Yes, yes. Anything where it has to go out and get information instead of just letting stuff flow to it is going to be active. I'm looking to see if we have any that are just plain. There's a whole section here on firewalls and IDS evasion and spoofing. The output section is right here. And then you can stop. You can basically, you see how you add different ones. You can put multiple commands in with the scan when you're doing Nmap as well. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. All right. So do you guys understand what I want you to do and what you need to do in order to finish your lab? So what you need to do for that is you need to use Nmap on Kali or Parrot, and you need to run the Nmap-V-A against hack this site. And then I want you to look and see what types of ports are open. And then I want you to tell me what the public key type is on that site. And all of that information is listed. I mean, I literally just went through all of it with you. So I would also like it if you would screenshot. I'll put that in there so you can, if you could just do a quick screenshot of you guys running that on whatever it is with your answers, that would be really helpful. Okay. I'm going to stop share on this one. How is CyberQ running for everyone? I know we've had some serious issues with that. Everyone's quiet, I'm guessing because it's been, oh, it wasn't too bad for you today, German?
I was actually able to do the an actual lab and do a fair amount, but it was really early as well, so that also may have something to do with it. We did discuss the issue with it just being horrendous at night. So I'm assuming, you know, during service hours for everybody here in Update, it might just take a dunk.
Okay. Has anyone else continued to have really, really bad issues? Okay. It's okay. Sometimes they're freezing. Okay. If anyone turns in a ticket or has anything like that, there's been a few of you that have that have been really, you've been really good about forwarding that to me. So just make sure that you send those to me just so I can talk to our rep about the information. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording here.